ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्बोद्धूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ 22 verse 22 उपेक्षनामरूपे द्वे सच्चिदानन्दतत्परः समाधिं सर्वदा कुर्यात् हृदये वाथवा बहिः. So first 5 verses talks about the composition of an individual. Verse 6 to 12 talks about the formation and the function of 3 seers. Verse 13 to 21 talks about the cause of the bondage. Verse 22 and the requirement of the knowledge. Well, bondage is due to ignorance. That also we understood as the ignorance, avidya or maya, has twofold power. And that is, one is our veiling power, avarana shakti, and the second one is a projecting power. We call it as a creative power. And that is the reason for the samsara, that also we understood. And therefore the knowledge is required in order to get rid of the vidya. So that was also discussed up to 21. But the question is, well, once you gain the knowledge and yet samsara nivrutti doesn't take place. That is the experience of everyone. It's like a daylight. Therefore, the author introduces another topic, well, which is called samadhi, nididhyasana, which is meant for assimilating the knowledge which you have gained. This is samadhi or nididhyasana is an exercise in which mind is focused only on the self, Satchidananda, the limitless existence consciousness, as I am, as I the meditator, itself, himself. And for that matter, you have to filter out names and forms, which is mixed with this Satchidananda. It is Satchidananda is not available in a pure form in any state. Creation means name and form, and name and form means Satchidananda, because that is the basis. That's the truth. That's an essence of every name and form. It's a mixed. That's what verse number 20 said. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagad rupam tatodvayam. And so, basically all the time, the person who is a meditator, part of the creation, in a waking state, while he is meditating on Asti Bhati Priyam, Satchidananda, Atma. But names and forms are there. So you have to basically names and forms, they have to be filtered out. Anyway, and and because it is mithya, it is Jagadrupam, which is mithya. And then, so this mixture basically, name and form and Asti Bhati Prem, etc., this mixture is meditated upon, focusing on the Satya aspect, Brahman aspect, Atma aspect, changeless feature, and ignoring what is changing. The changing feature. Even though the changing feature, name and form, is falling in your purview of the knowledge, definitely. But it is not focused upon. That's the only thing. You have to just focus where you should focus. Vedanta draws your attention to focus on a changeless aspect in every name and form which is changing. When there is anything which is changing, it must have a changeless base. Anything which is changing must have a changeless base. With reference to that changeless base itself, you will be able to recognize the changes. And therefore, the changeless aspect, well, definitely is focused on for absorption. When your focus remains on changeless aspect, it is called samadhi, the nididhyasanam, the success of the nididhyasanam. And then, well, definitely you have to practice again and again so that your mind remains focused on the changeless aspect, Satya aspect, Atma aspect, etc. And now this meditation, absorption, is done in two ways. One is meditating on any internal object, such as thought. Every thought also has 5 components: Asti Bhati Priyam and name and form. So every thought is considered, and the Satchidananda part is focused on, ignoring the name and form of the thought. So this is an absorption in the changeless aspect of the thoughts, the internal object. This is called a closed eye meditation. The other one is focusing or meditating on any external object. There also there is all the 5 features are there: Asti Bhati Priyam and name and form. And there also you focus on the changeless aspect. This is a open eye meditation. So these 2 types of meditations are there: closed eye meditation, open eye meditation. And in verse number 23, while he shows this absorption meditation is twofold. Let's read that verse number 23. Savikalpo nirvikalpaha samadhi dvividho hridi Drsya shabdanuvedhena savikalpah punardvidha. Samadhi is divided into savikalpa and nirvikalpa. Savikalpa samadhi itself can be divided into 2. So one associated with an object and the other associated with the word, Vedantic word. From the teaching you have regarding Atma, several words are there. So such as Sakshi, well, such as Satyam, Asangaha, Adhishthanam, etc. etc. So the clear understanding of these words are there with you, because already Shravan Mananam is over. And there you have thoroughly studied these things and become, they have personally, you have a meaning for all these things. Means it is meaningful to you, all these words. So in this Savikalpa Samadhi, basically, you need some support, prop. And for example, well, using the hand, external object, for meditation on light. Samadhi on light requires what? Let's say the hand. And definitely, well, your focus first will be on the hand. But slowly it is it is withdrawn from the hand, and your focus remains on the light. Light is the one, etc. I will show you the features of a light samadhi. Samadhi on light. So there also you can focus on changeless aspect, that is light, and that is changing movement, etc. Anyway, so when the light is focused on without the support of the hand, it is called nirvikalpa. When the light is focused with the support of the hand, it is called savikalpa. That's it. Similarly, support in the form of a thought or the word is used, then the focus is turned towards Satchidananda. And now he will explain all this. We saw, of course, already sixfold samadhi is going to discuss between verse number 24, 24, 25, 26, one group of samadhi. Then 27, 28, 29, another. And so we are going to discuss this sixfold samadhi between verse 24 to 29. Now he starts from verse 24. And I will explain you what type of a samadhi is there out of the six. Kamadya chittaga drsyaha tatsakshitvena chetanam dhyaye drasyanuviddhoyam samadhi savikalpakaha. So, from this verse onwards, now author describes the six samadhis which can be practiced. This verse describes a internal thought associated savikalpa samadhi. Internal, antaraha. Thought, drishyam. Associated, anuviddha. Savikalpa samadhi. Savikalpa and nirvikalpa difference I have already told to you. Savikalpa, you take a support initially and then focus on changeless aspect. The support, when you take a support of anything, that is changing, but it has a base in changeless. It has a essence in changeless. Asti bhati prima, etc. So if you take a support internally, still savikalpa. If you take a support externally, still it is savikalpa. If you just focus on changeless aspect in everything, just without any support, it is nirvikalpa. That's it. And so in savikalpa, if you take support internally, that's called antara savikalpa samadhi. If you take a support external to you, meditator, external to meditator, well, then we will call it bahya savikalpa samadhi. Then in internal also you take a support of a word pertaining to Atma, like Sakshi and the Adhishthanam and Asangaha, etc., etc. Or Ananda or Anantam. What? And you have a teaching, so you have background, what is Ananta, you can at least think of. So Shravan Mananam is done. And therefore, so when you take a support internally of a word, then we will call antara, naturally, in antara shabda anuviddha savikalpa samadhi. If you take a support of a word outside, we'll see that. Then we will call bahya shabda anuviddha savikalpa samadhi. And if you take a support of an object, means thought, let us say. Thought, sakshi of a thought, we are going to see how it is to be done. So, but internally, suppose you are taking a support of a thought, which we call it as an object, naturally. Object of consciousness. So, then we will call antara drsya anuviddha savikalpa samadhi. If you take a support of an object external, bahya drsya anuviddha savikalpa samadhi. So these are the differences. And well, in nirvikalpa samadhi only, that is just antara nirvikalpa samadhi, bahya nirvikalpa samadhi. That's all. Nirvikalpa samadhi has only two differences: internal, external. And savikalpa has this four division: two internal, two external. Shabda anuvidya, Drsya anuvidya. Shabda anuvidya, Drsya anuvidya, external. Now here in this verse, one of the samadhi, that is, we are of course discussing savikalpa samadhi first. In this verse 24, antara Drsya anuvidya savikalpa samadhi is discussed here. Means what? Simple, in simple words, thought meditation. Thought meditation. There is no need to remove thoughts. The very first conclusion, if there is a thought meditation, well, definitely thought should be there. And therefore, meditation or samadhi means thought should go. There should not be any thought. That base itself is removed here. Many people recommend removal of thoughts for meditation. That is very difficult to do, and suppose if it is difficult to do, therefore you don't want that kind of a criteria is not there, there is no need to remove the thoughts. Thoughtless meditation is a yogic meditation, yogic samadhi. Thoughtful meditation is a Vedantic meditation. That's it. That's the difference between that. Thoughtful meditation. Thoughtful. Thoughtful means thoughtful. Literally thoughtful. And thought means not ordinary thoughts. Very refined. Highly refined thoughts. How can I make highly refined? That is what Shravana Mananam does. Shravana Mananam does refining. No doubt, etc. No doubt pertaining to the Shastra, no doubt pertaining to the Prameya, Brahman, no doubt pertaining to the Mithyatvam, no doubt pertaining to the Satyam, Atma. All kinds of doubts are gone. Pramana Vishayak, Prameya Vishayak. And so then you have a very clear thinking. So your thoughts are all refined. You need those thoughts. Yogic meditation, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Samadhi. Yogastu Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Anyway, so it's entirely different. But here, the Vidyaranya discusses, whoever maybe we have to tell, Sram Shankaracharya has. Anyway, so this is a antaran drishyanuvidya savikalpa samadhi, means internal thought associated savikalpa samadhi. Anyway, so author prescribes that. Now, how to do that? Well, for that purpose, we'll take an example first. That we'll take that example in which, we imagine a room, and in which many people come and go, and there are objects lying in the room. And those objects also are taken away by these people when they come in. Some of the objects they take away. Some people come, they bring new objects and they place it in the room. All these kinds of things are going on. Let us think that way. All these are illumined basically by one principle, light principle in the room. And that light principle is all pervading in the room. And it illumines the arriving people and objects, and it also illumines departing people and objects. First, our attention is turned basically to from the objects to the light, because objects are coming and going and changing and everything. People are also coming and going and so changing. So our attention is drawn from the objects or the people to the light, and light is noticed. And when someone enters basically the room, the objects are noticed, but the light basically in which the objects are known is missed. This is going to happen. That happens, in fact. That is how it is actually. So it is not that we are now, when you say I miss the light, means you have not missed the experience of a light. I miss the light means I definitely don't experience the light, you cannot say. There is no lack of the light experience, but the light is taken for granted. And the exercise is this samadhi. I mean, we should not, I am going to say at the end what is the difference between nididhyasanam and samadhi, but you just keep it like that right now, that both are one thing. So exercise is basically to focus the attention on the light and compare and contrast the features of the light and the objects and people. So you should compare you should compare the light and objects and people. One is light, one is lighted. You should compare, and you should notice the contrast between them after comparison. So what are after comparison, light and the lighted, what is the difference? The objects are subject to arrival in the room, people are subject to arrival in the room and departure. Objects and people are subject to arrival and departure. The light is not subject to arrival and departure. First point. This is a contrast. This is the way exactly you please do the meditation. This is the way. First take the example, compare the features between light and the lighted, and then later understand compare and see the contrast between them, and then go to the self-meditation, nididhyasana. Okay, so this is the first feature, which is contrast. The objects, and the people, they are subject to arrival and departure. Light is not subject to arrival and departure. Objects are changing, but the light is changeless. That's the second feature. The objects have attributes, forms, colors, but the light is colorless and formless. Then the objects are subject to division, but the light is indivisible principle. The objects can be contaminated by the dust in the room. The people's bodies, they are contaminated by the dust in the room, but the light is not contaminated. So the light is basically focused on, and its unique features are comprehended. Comparing, contrasting, thereby you know the clear division between the light and the lighted. And afterwards, you focus on light, because now you have features of the light, very clear features of the light, which is not subject to arrival and departure, which has no attributes, which is not changing, which is indivisible, which is not contaminated. All these features of light are very clear to you now. Now focus on the light with these features. Clear? So this is what it means. And ultimately, the features they summarize. One of the acharyas also summarized like this, which is really good, and I used to share always with you. And so those features now, in essence, we can write like this. What are the things? One is object and people, what is lighted, and one is light. We have to see like this, that the lighted, okay. The light basically is not a part of this lighted. Light is not a part of the object. Light is not a part of the person. Light is not a product of the object or person, people. Light is not a part, product, or property of the object. Then it is very simple to understand that light is an independent principle. Part, product, and property of anything is not independent. No part is independent of the whole. No product is independent of its cause. No property can be independent of the substance. So, in general, object, part, product, property of object. So, light is not a part, product, property of the object, person, sentient, insentient being, whatever, which is lighted. So, this is the first point. Then, second immediate conclusion will be light is an independent principle, independent of the object. Okay, it is independent, yet light pervades the object and illumines the object. Then third, light is not limited by the boundaries of the object because it is independent. Even though light pervades the object, the boundaries of the object is not the boundary of the light. Simple. Because it is an independent principle. If it is independent of the object, the boundary of the object is not the boundary of the light. Therefore, light is basically not limited by the boundaries of the object. Then, lastly, light continues to exist even after the object is removed, depart from the room. So, light continues to exist even after the object is removed. And that existing light is not available for knowledge, is not accessible because of the absence of reflecting medium. Think that there is no reflecting medium. Like a space, outer space. So, the existing light is not accessible because of the absence of reflecting medium. This is called a focusing on light with these features. And this focus, if continues, is called absorption in light. So, the nididhyasanam is focusing. And after focusing several times, practice of focusing, the mind is absorbed in the features of light, in light. That's called samadhi on light. This is the thing. So, now come back to our same practice is applied in our case. Internally, here, this was external. In the place of a room now, there is a mind. And vrittis, thoughts, desire, anger, etc. Why desire and anger? Why you are saying like this? Because that is what they are saying. Kamadhyaha. So they are saying kamadhyaha. So these thoughts, like a desire, anger, etc., which arise in the mind, which come in the mind, right? Which appear in the mind, which arrive in the mind and depart. They are our objects and people. Okay? So basically, vrittis or thoughts such as desire, etc., that arise in the mind and fall, they are similar to people and the objects in light samadhi example. And these thoughts are basically insentient by themselves. And they are known because of, well, something other than the thoughts. They are inert, They are not self-illumining. Any inert thing means not self-illumining. Self-illumining is not inert. And what is inert is not self-illumining. Inert is always illumined by something which is self-illumining. Anyway, and therefore these thoughts are insentient by themselves, and they are known because of something, some consciousness principle, something other than the thought, and which we call it as a sakshi. Now we know this. We have discussed sakshi. Very features of sakshi, etc., has been discussed in the verse number 5, which we have done. So the first stage is basically a samadhi. Is first stage of this samadhi here in our samadhi is paying attention to the consciousness principle. Then the thoughts and consciousness should be differentiated naturally, because something is changing and something is changeless. We have to focus. Should not focus on just thoughts. Right? They are just names and forms. If you keep on focusing all thoughts on thoughts only, you will never know this changeless principle by which the thoughts are known or thoughts are illumined. And therefore, basically, first we should do what? Compare and contrast between thought and the illuminator of the thought, between the lighted and the light. Okay? Between the lighted and the light. Thought come and go. First feature, we are comparing and contrasting. Thoughts come and go. People and objects come and go from the room. Right? They come in the room, go. What is the room? Mind is the room, in which these thoughts come, appear and go. In Sanskritam we call agama paitvam. Agama, arrival. Apaya, departure. Anyway, so this is the first thing. Thoughts come and go. Consciousness does not come and go. Everyone's experience, right? Waking state, thoughts come and 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 a series. Illumine. Deep sleep state, go. Room is vacant. You hear the room itself is gone. So that's how I said, I think in the last class. There is no absence of experience, but there is an experience of absence. There is no absence of experience in deep sleep state. There is an experience of absence of mind, departure. Still consciousness is there to illumine the absence. Therefore, what is the first thing? Thoughts come and go. Consciousness does not come and go. Naudeti nastameti. We have seen in that verse 5. Then, second thing, thoughts do not pervade the whole mind. They are only waves in the mind. But consciousness pervades whole mind. What is this? There we discussed. You may not remember, but I have to remember. That's my duty. It's not your duty. We discussed that the two parts of the mind. There are people who have an advantage in this class right now, because in morning today in Drsya Viveka in Gujarati we discussed the same thing. So for them it will be too much, but what can I do? So basically what happens is there is a division of the mind. They do it differently in a different text, and here division is done in order to analyze the aspects of the mind, in keeping a focus in this Drsya Viveka only. So here we do the analysis of the mind in this way. We divide the mind into two. And if you want the verse number 6, discuss that thing. Chichaya veshato buddhau bhanam dhistu dvida sthita eka ahankriti hi anyat syad antakarana rupini. So what happens is mind is divided into two. One is a dravyamsha and other is a vruttiyamsha. So one is basically, the whole mind which is pervaded by consciousness. Chichaya praveshataha. So basically the consciousness manifests, it gets reflected in the mind and the whole mind becomes conscious. That conscious mind, the whole conscious mind, the dravya, naturally, mind also is a dravya made up of 5 elements, subtle elements, sattva aspect. So that is a dravya. So the whole mind made up of this 5 sattvika sattva aspect of the 5 elements, basically that is, and which is conscious now due to reflection of the consciousness, sakshi. Well, basically that is called ahankara. That's called ahankriti. That's called ahankriti. And when in such a conscious mind now, thoughts arise. That is called vruttiyamsha. That's called antakaranam here. So there are this division of the mind is in twofold, ahankara and antakaranam. Dravyamsha and vruttiyamsha. And when in the process of knowledge, the vruttiyamsha, the antakarana, goes out through the mind, through the senses, and contact the external object, pervade that external object, and accordingly, in that antakarana which is a vruttiyamsha, will have that vritti. If it contacts antakarana, the vritti contacts the part outside, then there will be a corresponding thought called part thought. And the ahankaramsha, well, definitely means aham vritti. When the whole mind is pervaded by the consciousness, with the conscious mind will have a aham vritti. That's called ahankara only. So that ahankara will know what? Part. Because now part thought has arisen. So that the gata drashta, the seer, the ahankara, knows the part. This is part, he says. This is part. Because a part thought has arisen. And I gave example also today. The flashlight which you have. By that flashlight you keep in hand. Let me talk about that a little later. Now what happens is, I missed one point. What happens is, the ahankara, the total mind, dravya amsha, the substance mind, remains inside. And only the vritti amsha goes out. Not the whole ahankara, whole mind goes away. Whole mind goes away means what? Ahankara goes away. The very drashta, the seer, goes away. Seer never goes away. Seer remains inside, which is nothing but a part of antakarana, which we call as a dravyamsha. And vrittiyamsha only goes away and contact the part, and there will be a corresponding part thought. And the seer inside says, this is part. This is how the knowledge takes place. So, point is here, and the example they give is flashlight. You keep in your hand the flashlight. The whole flashlight does not go to the object in the darkness. Let's say something, like a golden ring or something. It is falling and there is a darkness, and now you put a flashlight. So the whole flashlight does not approach there. Only a beam of flashlight goes there. Flashlight remain in your hand. A beam of the flashlight goes and illumines the ring. Same way the dravyamsha remains in the mind, like the flashlight. And a beam, as though the vritti, goes out and contact the object and illumine the object. Why illumine the object or just thought? Illumine. Why illumine? Point is, when the whole mind, this is not, I did not discuss in morning because it is coming. But I am telling you here because we have already seen. What happens is, the whole mind has become conscious, right? Okay. Then the thought which arises in the mind will be automatically also, will be conscious or not? Will be having Chidabhasa or not? It will be having a Chidabhasa. So along with Chidabhasa, Vritti goes. Vritti well pervades the whole object, and the Chidabhasa in the Vritti illumines the object. And that is how this Ahankara, the Drashta, says, well, that this is part. Clear now? Ahankara is also conscious. The whole mind is conscious. Ahankara is conscious. Drashta. And this is Drshyam. Drshyam is a Vrityamsha. Drashta is this total mind, Dravyamsha. Both are conscious. That is also discussed later in the verse 7, 8, etc. But we have already seen all these things. But my point is, ultimately, this conscious, the thoughts do not pervade the whole mind because it's a part of the mind. They are like waves in the mind, but consciousness pervades the whole mind. Thought does not pervade the whole mind. Consciousness pervades the whole mind. That's how Ahankara arises. Anyway, thoughts have a form, such as part thought, etc. Consciousness is formless. Then thoughts are divisible. Consciousness is indivisible. Thoughts have a division. Now this thought, now this thought, now this thought. They have a division. And finally, well, the nature of the thought, the impurities of the thought do not belong to consciousness. Even though every thought is pervaded by consciousness, which we call reflection of the consciousness in the thought, there is nothing but this. If I say mind is pervaded by consciousness is equal to mind is endowed with the Chidabhasa. That's it. Or I say, well, the consciousness, the Brahman, the Paramatma entered the mind. Well, it is the same thing. Sunlight enters the moon. Nothing but sunlight is reflected on the moon, in which the moon is also lighted, and the moon also becomes a illuminator of something else, earth, etc. So this is exactly like this. The mind itself is lighted up. When the consciousness, enters the mind. This is all is theoretical. Please understand. When consciousness, there is nothing like this. When consciousness enters, there is nothing like that. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much detail. We have already seen. And if anyone is interested, can go back and see that. It's so much. I can't. The whole class will go in this. Point is, so when these are all different words used by the Shastra itself. So you say consciousness, Paramatma enters into the mind. Consciousness manifests in the mind. Consciousness gets reflected in the mind. Or there is a formation of a Chidabhasa in the mind. All these are one and the same thing. Same thing. Sunlight enters the moon. Or sunlight gets manifested on the moon. Sunlight gets reflected in the moon. Same thing. Or reflection of a sunlight is there in the moon. Same thing. That's how the moon is illumined, and illumined moon becomes illuminator and illumines the earth. Same way the mind is illumined by the Sakshi. There is a formation of a Chidabhasa, I can say. And now that mind, which is having Chidabhasa or conscious mind, which we call Ahankara, now in that mind a antakarana, or the vrittis are also formed. The vrittis go out through the different apertures and contact different objects, and the Chidabhasa also in the vritti will illumine those objects. Once the thought and the vritti is, because it's a very subtle, so it can pervade any gross object. So outside the pot is there, the antakarana, the vritti amsha of the mind, which is very subtle, pervades that pot, and the Chidabhasa which is there in the vritti will illumine the pot. And that's how we have a pot knowledge, Gata Jnanam. And who has this knowledge? That Ahankara, the seer, which we say, having a pot seer. The seer and the seen, both will be. This is just one antakarana, seer and seen. And this vritti amsha, well, we call it as a means of seeing, right? The seer needs a means of seeing called vritti. Without that, he will not have a pot knowledge. So this is how seer, seen, and the means of seeing, etc., well, is all ultimately one antakarana. That's how it is. Anyway, this will also, for your information, this is also going to come in the later chapters of the Panchadashi, and in detail it will come, especially in the 10th chapter where we are going to discuss Sakshi. There you will have a good days. Okay. So this is consciousness basically is not contaminated by the impurities of the thought. Naturally, this kama, krodha, all this, So that's how they said kama adhyaha in the verse 24 itself. Anyway, so consciousness is without attributes, free from any impurities, attributes of the thought. So this is how, now you got all features. Compare, contrast between light and the lighted, thoughts and sakshi. Now you know, oh, what a sakshi. And now you focus on sakshi. You focus on sakshi. How do I focus on sakshi? Sakshi is just consciousness without attributes, without, it's indivisible, etc. And it is formless, etc. All this, it is all pervading. I should focus consciousness on, and the consciousness is an object with all these things? No, sir. You are conscious, right? And therefore this consciousness is just you. I am this consciousness. If you think that consciousness is without form, without attributes, all pervading, lighting up all objects, all thoughts, well, then it becomes object. Consciousness is not an object of consciousness, naturally. Yeah. Therefore, if that consciousness after separation still is an object, and you are conscious of that consciousness, then that consciousness is inert. Okay? You are consciousness. Now, but I am that consciousness? Yes, I am that consciousness. I want to visualize that consciousness as object in my mind. Then that consciousness ultimately, even after separation, will remain object. You are conscious of that consciousness. Say after separation, I am this consciousness. So first focus on thought. Second thing is then come to Sakshi and then claim I am that witness consciousness. And only when meditation becomes consciousness meditation, it is not nididhyasa. Okay? Only when meditation becomes I meditation, then definitely it is nididhyasa. And if you continue this, I assure you, you will be absorbed in that, called samadhi. That is called samadhi even in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Nididhyasanam culminates into absorption. Any meditation can culminate, it has a potential. Any meditation can culminate into absorption. Even a painter who meditates on the painting gets absorbed into painting. That potential is there. So this is how it is. So focus on, not focus, thoughts we are already know. So anyway, focus on thought, let's say, then come to the Sakshi, and then to the I. Chidananda, Rupa, Shivoham, Shivam, etc. in the Nirvana Shatakam basically is an excellent, Sakshi meditation phrase. First three things are there, which are all changing, but it has a changeless aspect. And the changeless aspect in the first, in the all changing things which has been described in the first three lines of every stanza, is this Astipati Priyam or Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivam that has been told in the fourth line. Anyway, so this is a way the meditation. This is called Antara Drsya Anuvidya Savikalpa Ka Samadhi. Antara, internal. Drsya, thought. Anuvidya, associated. Savikalpa Ka Samadhi. Because you have taken, in order to come back, in order to come to the, in order to focus to the Sakshi, you have taken help of some support. What? Thought. Therefore, this is Savikalpa Samadhi. And here it's a thought which is Drishyam. Therefore, Drsya Anuvidya Savikalpa Samadhi. And it is internal. Therefore, Antara Drisya Anuvidya Savikalpaka Samadhi. But Swamiji, if we remain focused on the I, which is pure consciousness, all pervading, the indivisible, this, that, without attributes, which does not go and does not come back, naudeti nastamiti, all this, if I concentrate on that, that Samadhi is what? Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Because you have taken initially some support. So any Savikalpaka Samadhi gets converted to Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Potential is there. Okay. Anyway, and still some time is there. So anyway, so this meditation should progress in the form of that, in this form, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, etc. And now few more lines I have to tell you in this. See, this I, now there's a big question. Sakshi, I am the witness of the mind, thoughts. I, the witness, is a witness of all the minds. Then question. If I am the witness of all the minds, Swami, why don't I know? You are a very crooked guy. What is going on in your mind? I just don't know. If I am a witness consciousness and witness of not just this mind, my mind, but witness of your mind also, why don't I know everything what is going on in your mind? You cannot know. Who is the knower? Please tell me. Witness consciousness is a knower or the ahankara is a knower? Ahankara, which is the part of that mind. That mind is totally conscious, becomes ahankara, seer, and then witness, and then know the thoughts which arise in that mind. Okay? But all these ahankaras, basically are non-separate from you. That much you can know. So, like sun can say, I am in the form of all reflections in all these buckets. But that particular reflected sun, what illumines, that this sun may not be knowing. This is just a rough example I am giving you. I am in the form of all reflected suns, but that reflected sun lights up in the medium what? That this example is not good, but I am trying to push my idea into your mind. This is the question all the time they ask. If I am witness of all the minds, why don't I know everything in your mind? You need to be knowers. You should have a knower status. You have a knower status with respect to one mind. You cannot be knower of all the minds. With that mind, well, even though consciousness pervades everything, the knower status and then various objects to be known in form of the various thoughts arise in that mind. Well, that is not. And therefore, basically, you can now, after doing this meditation, I am consciousness, etc., you should say, well, I am not, I am the witness, consciousness of all the minds. All the minds are resting in me. This is essential. Why this is essential? Because this witness consciousness is Brahman, has to be understood. That is the meditation, not just witness. I am the witness consciousness, free from any kind of limitations, all pervading, which pervades even space, which pervades over everything, not just this mind, but pervades all minds also. And therefore, the Sakshi's Brahman has to be there in that step. Sakshi and Brahman are not two different things. With respect to one mind and the thoughts in one mind, I say, well, I'm a Sakshi. But ultimately, that Sakshi, witness consciousness, which is free from any division, free from any limitations, which is all pervading, ultimately, is Brahman. So that is to be done. Like the space I accommodate, everything, etc., etc. So from the light example, you can go back, you can go to the space example, and well, you can meditate like this. So ultimately, this is a main feature of a Nididhyasanam. And if you continue like this, ahankara becomes old, with old age, now about to go. Ahankara becomes so weak. Ahankara becomes weak. Samsara nivrutti is easy. All association of a samsara is centered on ahankara. Ahankara becomes weak when you meditate like this. Again and again. Again and again. Again and again. Because you are a sakshi of ahankara. Understand this very well. You are saying mind. I have told you. You are witness consciousness, witness of ahankara, witness of thoughts, ahamidam, whatever you want. These are the various ways you can say. So there are many objects present in the mind in the form of a thought, vrittis, for example, desire, anger, etc. And a list of thoughts have been already enumerated in verse number 4. And there we saw Kamaha sankalpaha sandeho, kamas sankalpa sandeho, shraddha shraddhe dhriti tare, rihi dihi bihi ityeva madin bhasayatye kadachitihi. This is actually a definition of a antakarana, mind, from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So, kamaha sankalpaha vichikitsa dhritihi shraddha ashraddha dhritihi adhritihi hrihi dihi bihi iti etat sarvam Manahaiva. That's a definition of a mind in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I think in first chapter and fourth Brahmana or something, or maybe fifth Brahmana. So basically that has been narrated there. So if you are asking, well, that what are the types of vrittis, etc., you will find in the verse number 4 itself in this text. So in the very same mind, well, there is present the consciousness principle as the illuminator of all kinds of vrittis, which is free from vrittis, which is independent principle. Please understand, light and the lighted. Light is not a product, part or property of what? The object, which is lighted. Light is independent principle. Light pervades all the objects. Lighted, that's how they have become lighted. But still light is independent. So therefore light is not limited by the boundaries of the object, etc., etc. Same way here. Thought is a lighted. Sakshi is a lighter. Not lighter, but illuminator. Okay? And therefore, consciousness principle basically, which is the illuminator of all those vrittis, same those 5 points, you please tell to yourself. Okay? After arriving and after comparing with the thoughts and contrasting, you focus now on the consciousness as a witness, consciousness of the thoughts, and narrate to yourself these 5 points. Consciousness is not a part, product, and property of the thought. So, like a parrot, please repeat. Okay? And then, well, remain with that. You remain, but I can't remain. Okay, come out. Next day again try. You will find, oh, you can remain now for more 5 minutes. Very good. And that way you will be absorbed. You will remain focused. Anyway, this is how one can meditate on Sakshi, the self. Very important is words should be dropped. Not a single word you keep. You only keep one word, and that is I. Only I. Consciousness and Sakshi. Later, all these things should be dropped. Anyway, so this is the meditation in which definitely I entertain the thoughts regarding the Sakshi, which is called Drsya Anuvidh Savikalpaka Samadhi. Verse number 25. Next Thursday, Friday. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.